Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hi, I'm Clarence Coggins, the author of Auntie, I Don't Want You to Get Married, Danielle, the Girl from New York. It was a beautiful summer day. The sun shone brightly on the small house at Rumvelt Park, Georgetown, Guyana. Julia and her 9-year-old niece were in the kitchen. After washing a dish, Julia handed them to Danielle to dry. Julia smiled at Danielle. Julia paused as she handed the third dish. Looking lovingly at her niece, she asked, "What's wrong, sweetie?" Danielle softly replied, "Nothing, Auntie." Julia made a disapproving face towards her niece. Then Julia turned to wash the next dish. In silence, Julia washed and handed Danielle the dishes to dry. After a few minutes, Danielle whispered, "Auntie?" Julia stopped and answered, "Yes, Danielle." Danielle paused. Then she shook her head as she dried the dish in her hand. Julia made another disapproving face, then washed another dish. She couldn't understand it. Danielle, who had traveled all the way from New York City by herself, was a very brave and happy young girl. Julia couldn't understand why her niece was feeling so sad. After a few minutes passed, Julia whispered again, "Auntie?" "Yes, Danielle." Again, Danielle shook her head. This time, Julia said, "Please tell me what's wrong, honey." Julia could see that her niece was about to cry. Danielle's big brown eyes were welling up with tears. "Baby, you can tell me anything. Tell me what's bothering you." Danielle shook her head, sniffled, and blurted out, "Auntie, I don't want you to get married to Uncle." The response hit Julia like a slap. "What?" she stammered in disbelief. "Auntie, I don't want you to get married to Uncle." Danielle repeated, "Why, baby?" And that's the introduction to the story.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Author. And happy birthday week, everybody, again. And today we have another amazing author today. Mr. Clarence is joining us as we celebrate 1 year of incredible authors joining us on the show. So, hi, Mr. Clarence. How are you today?
I am blessed, highly favored, energized, and motivated, and extremely grateful to be in your greatness.
Oh, you are so sweet, and we're so excited to have you. We're going to jump right in because that is such a beautiful reading, but tell us about it.
Well, it happened actually in the early 90s. I went down to Guyana for some business. There was a wedding that was taking place, and that's where the story was unfolding. I had originally written the story back in the 90s, but I had gotten real sick when I was down in Guyana, and I lost the original work and drawing. It has taken me up until the time of the pandemic to actually put everything together through the use of technology, get it illustrated worldwide, and now we have the final product.
So, is this based on a true story?
Yes, it is based on a true story which has been fictionalized. My father told me the best way to write is to write about what you know.
That is very true. It is very personal and it has a sense of authenticity that everybody can connect. So, tell us a little bit more about the story because you gave us the taste. Is it from the
Right.
perspective of the niece? Is it from the perspective of the aunt? How did you decide to put it together?
Well, I'm very, very glad you asked that. Let me just divert for a second and talk a little bit about the genre. It's in the format of a children's book, but that's not really who we were looking at. We were looking at it as more of one adult sharing a story with another adult. And you're at a family gathering, you're probably having a good meal and everything, and you settle back down, and then you start sharing stories with the family. And that was really the essence. It's really a work of flash fiction. And I think that that's going to be the primary genre which I'll be developing over the next few years. But the story came from the actual event that took place. I just wanted to share a story. I would have called this category of my writing when I first started the process of rewriting it again for like the third or fifth time. I would call it whisper. All right, and not wisp. It's like WISP. And basically, wisp is like a small puff of smoke, and it's light, it's airy, and that's basically what I tried to convey. After I wrote it and I shared it with a lot of people, it was amazing the type of responses I got. I was truly shocked.
So tell us a little bit about it. Why were you shocked about the response? What hit you home?
Okay, number one, just like the game show, the number one response that we get from people is, "Why don't you want your auntie to get married?" Or number two, "That's what my niece said to me." And then the final answer basically is that, "Too late, I'm already married." And then it was diverged between happily married or "I wish I had heard this before."
So you were connecting with a whole bunch of different people through the story. That's so exciting.
But that's absolutely correct. My current profession is as a taxi driver, Uber driver. So almost every time someone gets into my car, I basically share my story. And I ask them about the book and I say, "Here, take a look at it." And that's how I basically was able to get the various responses. It's so gratifying when someone will actually say, "Take your book right on one of the major distributors in their unlimited selection and basically read the book right there in the car." And I've had that happen several times. One of the most gratifying was when a 10-year-old child basically read the story. And then there was one girl who was 9 years old who read the story. She actually read a paperback copy of the book, which I passed back to her to read in the car. Basically, the children identify with it, adults identify with it. I'm very pleased at my first work. And the other thing I would say and possibly add to that was the timelessness of it. And that's what I was reflecting on with someone just the other day. This story was actually, once again, written in the 90s. Yet here we are in 2020, and people are getting joy and delight from this particular story.
So we're going to bring you back a little because you got me all sorts of excited. You have a captive audience that you are marketing your book to on a daily basis. That is incredible.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, it may be a small number of people, but that's all right because some of the people have large networks. I had one gentleman who was in my car. He had marketed guys as well as gals. One gentleman, basically, I gave him the information. He took a picture of the card because I have the card actually pasted in the back window of my taxi, the partition, and I took a picture and shared it with his Cisco network. So all the Cisco engineers that were in his network, about 30,000 people, actually got a chance to see the information. And they were, "What's this?" And it's like, just check it out, and I'll talk to you later. That type of thing. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, having the captive audience gives me an opportunity to get better with doing interviews because one of the things that well, you're the author of this thing. Let me ask you questions about the book. And I generally try not to give away the full story because one of the things about the title and the subject matter, when people read it, shocks some of people, okay, because they have a lot of preconceived notions based on their personal experiences, on how they view this world. So I found out that my writing impacts different people differently, but the conclusion that the book comes to draws people in to put smiles on their face.
That is such a great thing. Very happy ending, very focused on what to bring to the society, which is awesome. I love the fact that you said it was timeless. You know what I mean? It's a story that
Yes.
even if it's 20, 30 years old, people are still relating. And I think anything dealing with family, it's a relatable, or family's dynamic still the same. So this is your very first works.
Well, no, actually, back when I was in college, and I just left college for about a year or so, I had actually written a monograph, and that was actually on Black students and reparations and nonfiction work. That one really didn't go too far. I think we sold maybe about 150 copies, and we've lost the manuscript now. But this is my actual first work of fiction, which is published, and it's actually having some commercial success.
Congratulations. That is awesome. Are you planning to continue in this book series? Is this a series? Is this a standalone? What are you doing with it?
Great question, and I'm so glad you asked. At the time of this interview, we're currently in the pre-order phase of the second book in the series. The series is Danielle, the Girl from New York. The second book is Six Magic Cans of Happiness, which actually does get a little bit deeper because it talks about how to become better financial managers and things of that nature. But it's with the young girl, and it teaches your children financial management skills. So that's the topic of the second book. We are going to break it up into two parts. So there'll be Six Cans of Magic Happiness 1 and 2. The objective in the overall format of the series is that 5 books will cover her childhood, 5 core books will cover her childhood, 5 core books will cover her teenage to college years, and then 5 core books will actually cover her adulthood.
That is a very well thought out series already. So you have a whole vision of what this universe is going to do. Are they all going to be focused on life principles, or is this going to be different things in here?
Great question, because that ties into the exact thing which I was kind of leading you towards asking, which is it's not going to just be me writing. I actually hope to incorporate other writers into the process. Well, I have developed a general framework. The actual life of Danielle and her family is going to be something that is going to be developed by the people who actually work with me in putting this book together. This book, the first book and the second book coming after, was actually an international collaborative process. Thanks to the online freelancing services, and there's two that I primarily use, but I was able to get the illustrations done. I was able to get the proofreading done through Instagram. We found the person who did the original audio reading of the book. This book has already been translated into the African language Ga. We just need to put together some more funds to put it in the illustrated format. And so it's a really collaborative effort from beginning and hopefully to end. We hope to bring this book to life in various series. We already have a webtoons version of it, which has a more manganized style of the book. And we are looking at animating it to having it be different forms of animation. Someone had mentioned the possibility of even bringing it to the play, making it like a play and then actually filming the play in play format.
That is extremely exciting. And you have all these different pieces moving and all these different things going together. When you started, was that your vision all along? Did you say, this is what I
Well,
would love to see for this book?
well, yes and no. I mean, basically, when I first started, because I started in the 90s, so we didn't have a lot of the avenues for marketing that we have now. We know that things cost money. So basically, being an author who started with less than a shoestring budget, I had just planned on doing the book, and I just planned on doing merchandise like T-shirts and things of that nature. I really hadn't fully fleshed it out to how it's fleshed out now, and I really hadn't really imagined the additional writers, additional illustrators, and the international component of the various people involved. When I first thought about it, I thought I would just share like various little anecdotal stories of the people that I knew, all right, and then publish it like that. That I had thought of, but now it's actually come more developed. And when I share it with other people, which is very important for me to help keep me motivated and inspired, when I share it with people, the vision comes more into focus, more the components get completed, and we move on from there.
As you started your journey and you've been doing this for a while, you've been playing with this idea. What did you learn? What is one thing you learned from this journey so far?
One thing I learned from this journey is that even if you lose everything, to just basically pick yourself up and just continue with the process. To basically start from where you are right now, because you know what? It was actually a mistake. You see this laptop right here? I had bought this laptop because I was going to study more coding. But because I didn't actually look at the specs of the laptop before I bought it, I was looking more at the price. It didn't have the power to do what I needed for the coding, but it did have the power to actually do writing. And that's why I said, let me finish this project off. And voila, here we are today talking with our hostess with the mostest.
I like the fact that you tell people just pick yourself up. That is a beautiful message. And sometimes it's very discouraging when everything gets lost. How did you keep yourself motivated?
Well, see, that was basically the thing. I always stay motivated because I'm always trying to move forward, advance myself, help others. And basically, I'm just grateful that the vision came to say, hey, this is the ideal time to actually start up this process again and complete it.
So tell us, you're working on book number two, or at least book number two should be pretty close. What else are you working on so far?
I created a new series. It's called Clarence Coggins Confidential. The first book in the series is Mommy Be So Mean She Take My Money. We've already written it. It's already copywritten. We've even actually done some of the illustrations and panels. They require a little bit of editing. That's why we haven't marketed it yet. But that's already in the can, and it's far more along than the second book in the series, which is due out in April. A new series that we're working on, and that will actually, we're going to finish that off probably sometime in June, start getting it to market. One of the things I learned about the first part was that you really need to have time for the actual marketing, get the reviews, and after writing the book, or even while you're writing the book, marketing is one of the biggest components because besides having the joy of writing a book, actually having it read and actually possibly making some money from writing the book are two additional joys and pleasures.
It is always a journey and you're always working and you're always bringing it together. You're working on the craft of writing, but you're also working on the business. So, what advice would you give an aspiring author that is getting ready to jump into this business?
Number one, get involved. All right. That's number one. Don't let your negative self talk stop you from putting your work and your project out there. Get your work copyrighted. It takes less than $150 to get your work copyrighted. Get your work copyrighted to protect yourself and save yourself a lot of disappointment in the future. Connect with other authors and writers. There are online forums which have a whole lot of different writers and authors, self-publishers, publishers who you can connect with. Connect with people on various social network platforms. See what they're doing. Introduce yourself. One of the key things, and this is why I'm really working and why I'm spacing out my project, is so that I can really develop bigger launch parties. I want to be able to hit like the top 10 tier when my next book drops. We're closer to that now than we were when we did my first one. And each of the subsequent projects move along. One of the other things that I'm doing is, as you notice, that the first book is a short book. The second book is a short book. I'm using the Alexander Dumas's style of writing. That style is basically the serial style. You basically write, fit, publish, write, fit, publish, and you can always compile it at a later time. So what you're actually doing is you're learning how to monetize a same piece of work in several different processes. But more importantly, you're getting your work out there now instead of later. And you're able to start building your work, your reputation. One final note, which is really the most important of it all, editors and proofreaders. Have people proofread your work. I would recommend having it proofread at least 3 times.
I really like that advice, and it's so appropriate because sometimes we think I have one editor, it's okay to get multiple. You are never going to go wrong with multiple eyes looking at your work. So that is awesome. So tell us, where can our listeners find you? Where can they find your book? Where are you available?
The book can actually be found on Amazon.com. If you just do a search on Auntie, I Don't Want You to Get Married, it'll come up and you can pick up the book there. It's also available through Ingram Spark. And A Cool Book has the audio version of the book. A Cool Book is a distributor which is based out of Ghana in West Africa. And we're really trying to get them here in America, get more authors here on their platform and do that connection.
So where can our listeners connect with you now as well?
We have a Facebook page, Daniel GFNY. That's what it is, Girl from New York. We also have an Instagram of the same name, Danielle GNFY.
So we're going to switch gears. So this has been really, really exciting. We're getting ready to do our lightning round. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm
Easy
ready for the
peasy.
lightning round.
Easy peasy. Don't think too hard on it. Let's see what we do. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke,
Nice. Fruit or vegetable?
vegetables,
Oh, wow. You're my first one. Nice. Pop music or classical?
Costco,
Home meals or restaurants?
home meals,
Ooh, here's your last one. Let's see how you do. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
power to live forever
That's a good
and
one.
keep my youth.
That's even better. Mr. Clarence, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show and so much fun. And I know you're super busy. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
I just want to say happy birthday on your anniversary. Congratulations. It's always success breeds success. I think your podcast is absolutely awesome. I don't listen to very many podcasts. Your podcast happens to be one of the few which I do, in fact, listen to because there's so much stuff out there, but inside the mind of the writer, author is like one of the greatest things that you can really do because you don't really get to know what your author was trying to do.
Oh, Mr. Clarence, we so appreciate it. I am absolutely so moved and so humble. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. To our listeners, go ahead, follow Mr. Clarence, check out the book. Remember, it is anniversary week. We have turned one. We're super excited. Make sure you click on the link to get your free gift this week, all about how to take an idea and flesh it out in 4 easy steps. And give us a like, give this podcast a share, recommend it to your friends, and let's continue to grow together. Remember, we have one last interview this week, and then we're back to our regular schedule. So go ahead, join us tomorrow for another amazing author. Thank you, everyone.